You are listening to the Dental C-Suite, the strategic alliance for independent dentists, covering the three pillars of practice success, people, profit, and patience from the Dental C-Suite. Here are your hosts.
All right. Welcome back to the Dental C-Suite. I'm Jessica Beretti, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Kyle Hamilton and Charlie Beaulieu. And today, we're here with another great guest, Stephanie Richardson, founder of the Dental Director Academy, and someone with over 20 years of experience in the dental world, which is super cool. And um, what's even cooler is not just in one lane. She's been a receptionist, an RDA, an office manager, director of operations. I'm sure I'm missing something, but she's truly seen it all. So we're really excited to have her. With the Dental Director Academy, which is something I can't wait to get into. It's awesome. Stephanie focuses on something that the industry, I think, often overlooks, which is leadership. So while most training is centered around clinical skills, she helps office managers and teams build the systems and the structure and the confidence needed to run a smooth and really profitable practice. So I myself have had the chance to chat with Stephanie a couple times already, and she's one of those people that just gets it. So we're really excited to have her on. And we'll also be dropping Stephanie's contact info into the show notes so you can easily check her out. Check her workout and connect with her to learn more. So welcome, Stephanie. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you chat with us today.
Thanks so much, Jessica. I'm happy to be here.
So yeah, let's just dive right into it. I guess, to start off with, tell us about your background. I know that we all know you're well known in the dental industry, but maybe for anyone who's not familiar with your background, can you just walk us through how you got started in the industry?
Yeah, honestly, it was kind of by accident. I was managing a retail store and I had a friend who was a dental assistant, and the office that she worked at, which was in a rural community north of Edmonton, um, they were looking for a receptionist, and she was like, "You would be so good at this. You should join our team." And I was like, "Well, I don't know that I'm looking for a change, but like, okay, I'll apply and I'll meet your boss and we'll see if this is a fit or not." So, long story short, I ended up getting hired and making the switch. And the first few days as a receptionist with no dental knowledge whatsoever, I was a little bit like, what the hell did I just get myself into? But I love a challenge. So, I ended up kind of working through the various reception roles in that office. Is a pretty busy office. And I was a hygiene coordinator for a while, a restorative coordinator, eventually became a treatment coordinator and thought, oh, I really like this dental stuff. So I went back to school to become a dental assistant. And while I was a dental assistant, I was really helping the practice owner um, kind of spearhead operations of the practice while I was her assistant. And a few years into being an assistant and kind of being a leader in the practice, she asked me if I would become her office manager. So we decided that I was going to do that so that we could facilitate growth in the practice. And it was kind of interesting because we had an office manager once and it wasn't a well-received role in the practice. So we decided that it was best to maybe change the name office manager, and we settled on director of operations because that's truly what I wanted to be doing, was directing the operations of the practice to facilitate growth. And I took a bunch of courses down in Phoenix and Atlanta to understand the business of dentistry and to understand leadership well. And we ended up growing that practice from originally when I started, it was 6 ops. And when I left, it was 17 ops. And it was a really fun
Well done.
time. Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I kicked off my dental career.
That's awesome.
One thing I want to point out is I find this curious with a lot of people I talk to. We all accidentally get into dentistry.
I believe that.
I have a very similar story that it was never meant to be, but here we all are.
And what a happy accident, because now I get to be sitting here talking to you guys.
Exactly.
I mean, I was kind of born into it, but that's a slightly
Yes.
it was a roundabout way that I got here.
Yeah, Kyle grew up with it.
Yeah. No,
Do you
that's
think
very
that
good.
I was just curious, that role as, growing into the director of operations and having this vision for what that office, you wanted the office to really look like, I guess, and how you wanted it to grow. Do you think that's like that experience specifically, do you think that's what ultimately made you want to, um, maybe not just kind of shift from working in practices to working with practices like you do now, and starting the dental director academy? Do you think maybe that played a role in that?
Yeah, I mean, seeing what was possible for sure was the what shifted that. I mean, I probably if like a turn of events in my life hadn't happened, I would probably still be working there as their director of operations. It was a really amazing place to work. The practice owner empowered her team and she believed in me and she, pushed me outside of my comfort zone to learn new things and be better. And I actually thought that that was like my dream job. But like life just happens and it pushes you in different directions. So I ended up having to move away from that community. And I thought at that time, I wonder if that growth happened just because of how amazing the practice owner was, or if maybe I did have like something to do with it. Maybe if I could help replicate that in other practices. So that's when I started sort of dipping my toes in to see like, am I onto something here or was it a happy accident? And it turns out it wasn't a happy accident, that there's some very specific things that help facilitate growth in practices.
100%, yeah.
Can
I
we?
want us to really. Oh, sorry, Kyle. No,
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say I would just love to dive into that a little bit more and get. I mean, I know we could easily spend an hour or two talking about that, but can you kind of give us like the top three things, I guess, that you implement or you work with a practice owner when it comes to their growth?
Well, every practice has a little bit of a nuance and it's a little bit different. But what I found when I first started coaching, consulting, oh, it's such a dirty word. I know people don't love like people hear the word consultant, they're like, oh, trying to change the way people perceive that. But when I
Absolutely.
first started like dipping my toes into it, I was really like boots on the ground in the practices, working with the teams, working with the owners, like in the office. And what I realized was there was like a handful of practices I worked with that had leaders in their office and or people who wanted to grow as leaders, and offices that didn't, and practice owners that really like had no interest in having an office manager, director of operations, or like a leadership team, any of the above. And those practices that didn't have that interest seemed to not do as well as the offices that we were promoting leadership, we were growing people in the practice. Like I don't really want to work with a practice for 10 years. I want to teach you all the things that you need to be able to do this on your own and then be able to like step away. And I found that the offices that we weren't growing leadership in, I was really married to them. And the practices that we were able to grow leaders in the practice so that the dentist could focus on dentistry and not as much on running the day-to-day operations. Those were the practices that like really thrived and eventually didn't need me. And it was kind of this like really cool thing that I was like a light bulb. It was like, those cartoons where a light bulb goes off over there. There was a moment where it was like that for me, where it was like this light bulb went off and I was like, I need to help office managers and practice leaders and leadership teams do the operations so that the dentist can do the dentistry, because this is where I'm seeing this like huge shift in growth.
I think we've discussed this on some other things, some other podcasts as well as like I think we've all found it that teams and offices will only ever go as far as the team takes them. You could
Mhm.
have two equal clinicians, but the better team will go drastically further than the other team, purely based on like what you said, just having that leadership, operations, having those systems in place, and empowering your team to actually act on your behalf and not have the dentist be everything to everyone at any one time because you simply can't do it. So
Agreed.
I think like leadership and we've talked about this too on I think lots of episodes so far, but leadership is so often overlooked in dentistry. And I think it's, someone like you coming into a practice and just showing practice owners why it's necessary to focus on leadership and advancing someone in a leadership role, advancing their skills and or improving their skills. And, it just takes someone like you to come in so that an owner can see the benefit in focusing their time and energy on and, you know, money resources into those specific staff members.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question for you, Stephanie. During my time, I've been a leader myself, but also tried to build kind of leadership teams underneath myself. Admittedly, not gone well. So I want to ask you a question. Do you see there being an issue in the industry with there being a lack of leaders, or do you see there being the issue more or less that there's lack of leadership opportunities for people to grow into the leaders that we need to see in the industry?
That's a great question. And it's maybe a little of both. There could be a lack of leaders. It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah,
There could
fair
be a
enough.
lack of leaders because of the culture of the business and because this isn't something that, you know, I would say the top 10% of practices, the leading practices in the industry right now are growing leadership teams and empowering their teams and helping develop people, which creates retention and growth. But so there's also a lack of leaders in the industry, maybe because of that. I'm not sure.
It's
No,
always
fair enough.
clinic specific, I think, hey? And that's something that we've talked about too. Every clinic is so different. And yeah,
I'd love to kind of come back to that clinic that you grew from 6 operatories to 17. Are there any specific tactics that you learned from that you're just replicating with each new client you bring in and each new practice you're working with?
Um, yeah, there's definitely a few particular systems where you grow awareness and education in those systems. The first thing being really analyzing the hygiene program and their perio program and understanding if there's opportunity for calibration. And most of the time, there is opportunity to calibrate that hygiene team. And I have a hygiene coach who helps calibrate hygiene teams because I don't think it's fair that I'm not a hygienist to try to implement that with teams. But I can certainly teach the leaders in the practice, the office manager, director of operations, around what a well calibrated hygiene team looks like and what the systems around that should look like. So a well supported hygiene program is always one thing. Oftentimes there's nuances with the reception team where there's a lot of repetition being done by multiple people or people really not even understanding their roles well. So creating clarity around like clear job descriptions, um, implementing checklists to be able to help bring them back to whatever task is at hand. I do this exercise with like almost every office that I work with called switch tasking. And it really just shows how that role as a receptionist and you're constantly switching between tasks is like a very ineffective way to work. And if we utilize checklists, which is why I love the checklist manifesto book so much, if we utilize checklists, it will always bring us back to where we should be working in sequence of what really supports the schedule and the success of the schedule being at the top of that list. Not just like slamming together a checklist, but really prioritizing it based off of what's going to drive results. So
for
like
sure.
sending out referral thank you notes would probably be more so at the bottom of the list. We want to make sure that those things are done, but our confirmation calls should probably be done first thing in the morning, right? But
Right.
interestingly enough, if you don't walk through this with a lot of teams, they don't understand prioritizing or what lever to pull drives results. So identifying that is another thing that we work a lot on, and I see as an opportunity in a lot of different practices.
Excellent. I love business process and building
Yes.
SOPs, standard
Oh, me
operating
too.
Yeah.
procedures.
Yeah. That's something we talk about a lot too. Hey guys, it's like,
Yeah,
It
know,
is.
there's lots of great ideas out there, but you have to have a process for it and a
Yeah.
way to implement it. So it's,
And it
you're not
can't
just
all be
saying,
up in
here's
your
a
head.
checklist and then, do with it
well,
what you want kind of thing.
yeah, and
It's
especially in industries with turnover. Well, every industry has turnover, but if you've got high turnover, if it's just in one person's brain and they leave, then the entire team is having to start from scratch and rebuild it all. Whereas if you sit down and you document it, it lives there, whether it's a binder on the shelf or a folder on a hard drive, someone else can open it up and review it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and even things as simple as, there's an office that I recently worked with where they wanted to grow their clear aligner therapy and their malocclusion in their practice and treating malocclusion. So we talked about kicking it off with like an Invisalign day, a clear aligner therapy day to build the momentum on the team and get them doing that same process over and over and over. But what was interesting is they had said they'd done a few Invisalign days and it didn't work well. So I asked them to kind of walk me through the process, which lived in the manager's head. And I just sent her a clear SOP. Week 8 before the day, this is what you do. Week 7 before your Invisalign day, this is what you do. And all the way through the weeks, and like in terms of marketing, preparing your team. And it really wasn't that difficult. And she said it was actually easier to follow a guideline than what she had kind of done previously to put together an Invisalign day. And they had 16 Invisalign starts that day. And it was really the only difference was following a clear process,
yeah,
right?
not something, Kate. It goes a
Yeah.
long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to
When it
mention
lives in
like
your head, you forget
buy-in
things
too.
along the way. You forget like important nuances that should be done.
No,
Oh,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
especially true, like in me in the bookkeeping world. I mean, my world is just so repetition is everything, you know. So like it is one of those things that I see all the time. I'm like, yes, just build the SOP, Charlie. It'll make everything so much easier.
I know it's harder to implement in your own business than it is to like teach
I
others.
right?
Yeah,
Yes,
it is
yes.
so much
I
I
harder.
agree with that.
preach this, but Charlie, do it as well.
Yes. Sometimes I have to give myself that same kick.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and I mean, you kind of touched on this, but what would you say are the biggest challenges that you're seeing in dental practices right now? And I guess as a follow-up question, um, what do you think most practices think the problem is versus maybe what the problem actually is?
Mm. Well, probably the biggest problem from what practice owners feel is a problem is, or teams, is recruiting and team retention. Um, what the actual problem could be is the retention issue being like clarity around a common shared purpose so that everybody understands what success looks like, what their accountabilities are. Sometimes people view like accountability as being mean, but really like accountability is clarity for teams um and I think that that's like really the piece that's missing, and if we started there and we address things at the root cause and we had clarity around job descriptions, around vision for the practice, maybe some core values, and we talked about what our sort of shared purpose is all the time. So people knew when they came to work, like, this is what success is. We might not have as much of a recruiting issue because we would have less of a retention issue.
Yes. That is like music to my HR ears because that's
I
partially
thought
why
it might be.
and I think you and I have talked about this before, Stephanie, too. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's just in any organization, but especially in dental, where every office is different. But you just if there's clarity on everything from your roles and responsibilities to understanding what the vision of the practice is and the organizational goals, you'll have more alignment. It's
Yeah.
just and once I think, again, it takes someone, to come in and talk to practice owners and kind of paint them that picture. And once they realize, like, okay, yeah, like clarity amongst everyone, like team members, but also, like I said, roles and responsibilities, that kind of thing. Like, oh, yeah, that can lead to retention, like long-term retention. So, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
just takes someone to come in and make that connection for them. But
When I
yeah, it's
was
funny. I just
first,
wanted to ask you because that's also my my thoughts on
yes,
what the problem actually is, and so
yeah. When I was first like dipping my toes into consulting, I was working with this one practice, and they had their office manager retire. And then they asked me and begged and pleaded if I would be their manager for as much time as I would give them. Basically, they knew I was growing a business, and they were like, just as much time as you'll be here permanently full time, like we'll take you. So I really liked this team. So I decided to manage this office. I ended up staying there for like over 5 years. But there was this one team member when I first started. It was a team of 23, 24 people. There was one guy on the team. He was a hygienist and arguably like the bitchiest person on the team. Sorry. By,
We're
like,
allowed to swear on our podcast.
yeah,
Absolutely fine.
okay.
we're not that
Um, and when I first started, I thought in my mind, like, it's just a matter of time before this guy quits. Like, this isn't going to be a long-term relationship because he's just not happy. But like the thing that we focused most on was vision and, you know, the organizational values and what a common purpose was. We spent a lot of time on that, and we iterated it at every single team meeting. And about a year into me working with this team, this guy had asked me for a meeting, and I thought, oh, I feel like things are finally going well with him. Now I think he's going to quit finally after a year. And I feel like we've kind of like made some headway, and he's like showing up differently, and people are enjoying being around him. But anytime a team member asks you for a meeting when you're a manager, you're like, oh, I know what's happening next.
Here we go. Yeah.
Especially with a history of not being happy. But he had this meeting, and he was like, I just wanted to thank you. Like, I have never been happier at work. And he's still at that office, and he'll probably
Wow.
retire from there.
Wow. No, I mean,
And
that's got to make you feel good.
well, it was like at that moment, I was like, yes, these are the things that matter. And this is like proof. This is a case study to show that, with strong leadership and common purpose and having clarity around roles, that we have higher retention.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
he admitted that he had one foot out the door when he was like actively looking for work when I had started working there. So I think that it's a true testament to what can happen with retention.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I
And
think
I
that's
will
a perfect example
Yeah.
of the value of it.
Yeah.
And I'll say from the financial side, retention is way cheaper than
Oh,
hiring.
thank you, Charlie. Absolutely it is.
Retain the team.
Yeah.
So it costs you way less than hiring people and finding stuff. Turnover is one of the biggest issues in a financial world. So finding that continuity.
To add on to that, what do you think the cost is? And I mean, this is really kind of an arbitrary question, but what is the cost of keeping a team member who maybe isn't a good fit?
That is also a high cost as well. And like I think we actually chatted about this too, is like you do need to find the right team members for your team. Like that is imperative for long-term success. But at the same time too, if this person is a hygienist and they're maybe not the right fit, they get the job done, but they're not the right fit. Don't fire them tomorrow, because that's a lot of lost production. But you need to be smart about transitions and stuff like that, because the moment you are short team members where you're adjusting schedules or whatnot, I mean, that is real-time costs and could be tens of thousands of dollars that you're looking at. So it is something that you need to do very smart. And Jessica and Stephanie would be great to help you with those plans.
But there's also the reputational cost and the brand impact of either having high turnover, and
Yeah.
every time that a patient's coming in and they're seeing new staff, versus the environment that having a not ideal fit staff member, potentially a toxic staff member, can create, that nobody wants to come to your clinic. Nobody wants to come in and see your office, and the patients will go elsewhere because they just don't feel comfortable or welcome, or they can sense the tension. So, yeah, the cost comes not just in dollars. Well, ultimately, it lands in dollars and cents, but it impacts in a broad number of ways.
It's such a good
Reputation is
point.
Absolutely.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And patients will point out, like, oh, every time I come here, there's a new face. But
Yes.
also, the thing that they don't point out is, to your point, what you said, Kyle, is that like that tension in the air where like it's a fine office, but something just doesn't feel right, or they don't like the way that people speak to one another in the office, but they don't point that out. So
Yeah,
sometimes it never gets fixed.
Yeah.
yeah,
And patients notice it, right? Like they notice
Mhm.
if there's tension or something off. But you're right, they typically don't say anything. So it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, they just choose a different provider at that point. They just choose to
yeah.
Yeah.
go elsewhere. So then
But
you have,
yeah.
people quietly leaking out the back door and you're not sure why.
Right, which
Absolutely.
is detrimental for sure. I just want to kind of go back to the leadership just specifically. So I'm curious, when you're working with office managers or, director of operations, I love that term. um, um, what do you find that people in that position struggle with? Or, if they're new to the position, what do they struggle with the most when, they're stepping into that role of leadership? Is it that it's a daunting position to them and they just um yeah, I'm just curious what if you find kind of a connection among or a trend among lots of people that you work with.
Yeah, there's definitely a few nuances. The thing that stands out the most to me is kind of a lack of community in that profession. So there's a bit of a dissonance between people looking at that role from the outside and like, oh, they're the manager. And what it feels like in the inside of being in that role, it's very lonely and isolating because you know things about team members that nobody else on the team knows. You know things about the business that nobody else knows. You're the only one in the practice doing that job. So sometimes people kind of get bogged down with that weight of like the isolation and the loneliness of that role. And that's exactly why I created the Dental Director Academy, was to kind of create a community where people can bounce ideas off of one another, and we can learn together and grow together, because doing it alone, and oftentimes it's people who are doing other roles in the office. So they're transitioning from a receptionist or an RDA, and sometimes even an RDH. They were the strongest in their role. So they get pushed into a leadership role. And then they're like, oh, now my relationship has changed with people in the office. Um, and they have to act differently. And, so there's definitely an isolation component where it weighs people down and it prevents them from growing. Um, on one of our live sessions recently, there was a new member who had joined, and she was like, I'm just so happy to be able to learn with like a bunch of people doing the same job as me. I can't believe it took me a year and a half to do this. I wish I'd joined sooner. She's like, I literally left our last call and like had tears in my eyes because it just felt so good to have other people doing the same job as me and understanding the the things that I'm going through. But in addition to that, people don't understand the business side, right? Generally speaking, they don't have a BA or an MBA. They are receptionists or RDAs or RDHs that were the best in their role. And then they're kind of thrown into this sink or swim management position, and getting clarity around metrics and how business actually works has been, I think, one of the biggest drivers to success in those individuals that are growing.
And that's
I
where
wanted to
like
say.
investing in them is so important, right? Sorry, Charlie. Yeah.
No, you finish your thought.
Investing
Yeah.
in like train them, provide them with the training. And I'm going to let Charlie go ahead, but I do want to touch on your live sessions if we can afterwards, because yeah, I think they're just very, very cool. So sorry, Charlie, go ahead.
No, all good. Yeah. So two things, Stephanie. I want to reiterate that loneliness, because like I was a multi-site manager myself for at the height of it 4 offices and about 45 staff. And yes, like the loneliness is terrible. Because yeah, you know everything and you can't share any of it. And you have people that are mad at you and you're like, well, I can't actually give you the specific reasons that would make you understand this because it's confidential. So yeah, just like having to like hold that all inside all the time, it is very, very hard. So I wish I would have found you years earlier, because it would have made my life way easier to just know that there's somebody else out there that's going through the same like thought process. But I wanted to kind of ask a question. Like in my experience, sometimes when I've put people into leadership roles in kind of smaller areas where they would lead maybe a clinical team or an office or something like that, I had trouble at times because they were kind of, like you said, the best of their position and stuff like that. But then when they moved into like a management side, they'd almost like flip the script sometimes on like their own personality. And they become like, I don't want to say mean, but they would just become totally different. I'm like, not why I put you there. Don't do that.
Right.
Like, is that something you've also seen in the industry where people, you're like, oh, you would be great for management, and they get there and they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah. There's definitely been a little bit of that. I think that sometimes, again, it could be lack of clarity around expectation.
And
right?
I will take ownership of that. I probably had a part to play in that too. So
Well, we just get to learn these things as we go. We're like, oh,
absolutely.
this person is amazing. They're amazing with people. And so we're going to elevate them, and then they become less amazing with people. And you're like, what the heck happened? The only thing that changed was your title.
Yeah.
But John Maxwell wrote a really good book about the levels of leadership. And he talks about like 5 different levels of leadership. And the first level of leadership is it's really positional. And like people look at you as a leader, the people in your team look at you as a leader because of your title. And that's it. You haven't earned any other credibility. But I think the reverse is also true, where like people get elevated and they're like, oh, I'm in this position, I have this title, and they look at themselves differently and the people around them differently, the people on their team differently. But what I found to be really useful is to have people in a team identify, like teach them the different levels of leadership, and then have them identify with each person on their team, where do you think that you're at on like the 1 through 5, with very specific reasoning for that 1 through 5 marker, for those 1 through 5 markers. And it kind of like really opens people's perspectives up to like, oh, maybe they follow me just because of my title, and they haven't seen what I've done for the organization. They haven't seen what I've done for them. You know, we only have this relationship because of my title, and working on specific things to work through those different levels of leadership can sometimes really close that gap of positional leadership.
I like that answer. That's a very good description of what's troubled me. Very nicely done.
It just boils down to reading a good book, right?
Absolutely, right?
I have a feeling we all wrote that book down. I'm just skeptic.
I noticed
did, yeah.
everybody, yeah.
There's actually like, even if you don't want to read or listen to the whole book, I'm not sure if you guys are audiobook listeners, but there's a few really good, like anywhere between 12 and an hour long videos on YouTube where John Maxwell speaks about it. And it's a great way to learn as well if you're more of a visual learner.
Awesome. That's a great sounding resource. Thanks.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll put that one in the show notes too.
Yeah.
I do not get any kickback from John Maxwell, by the way. That was free.
Yet, okay?
Just kidding. He pays me $5,000 every time.
you mentioned
Yeah, back
your
to you,
live
Jessica.
sessions that you have, and I had the opportunity to join one of those. And I was just thinking, like, like in a clinic, I think we've all seen this, like hygienists have lots of training opportunities, therapists have lots of training opportunities, assistants have lots of training opportunities. They're usually clinically based training
Yeah.
opportunities, but you're absolutely right. Like someone in a position of like an office manager role, there aren't a lot of training opportunities like there are for other members of the team. So your live sessions, can you just tell us a little bit about that? Because that's a great, I think it's just a great opportunity for people to connect and like in the sharing a similar role.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually been really fun growing that. So anybody who's a member of Dental Director Academy has access to our Tuesday live learning sessions, and oftentimes we host experts in the industry like you, Jessica, and Charlie has been on as well. Usually once a month, I try to have an expert in their field on because I really shouldn't be teaching about everything. There's people who know far more than I do, like you guys, to help educate leaders in the industry. Sometimes the members will reach out to me and say, "Hey, could we talk about this?" And then I'll create a whole plan around whatever they've kind of thrown my way. And sometimes it'll be like the day before, and I'm like, "All right, we're going to pivot. We're going to talk about this today because it seems to be important to the group." Sometimes we just have open Q&A sessions where everybody can log in and just learn from one another and talk about what's maybe not going well in their practice and what they might need advice on. And I started doing these live sessions about a year and a half ago. And right from day one, when I opened Dental Director Academy and started taking members, I have never been left stranded alone on a live session on a Tuesday. In fact, I've always had multiple people join for the Tuesday live session, which makes me understand how valuable it is to connect with people in the industry, like other managers and leaders connecting with one another.
Absolutely. And it keeps people engaged too. Do you have the same people returning, maybe not every week, but every couple weeks kind of
Oh,
thing?
definitely. I definitely have a few that are on every single week.
That's awesome. So yeah, it keeps them engaged. It keeps them excited to learn and yeah, to better themselves in the role that they're in. Super cool. I thought we had to highlight that because it's a really neat thing that you've created for sure.
Yeah, very,
Thank you.
very cool. So, like I said, I wish I would have known about it years ago.
Well, I didn't even have it years ago. I only created it a
Well,
year and a half ago. So
at least that community aspect of it, it
yeah,
really is so important. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's very much something to be said. I know for myself professionally in my professional development, having those peer support networks and those peer mentorship opportunities. It's one thing to sit down and listen to an expert or somebody who's a specialist in a specific aspect of whatever, and get their input, but then have the opportunity to chat with peers and other people who are going through the same thing you are, oftentimes at the exact same time, and just bouncing ideas and getting that support and knowledge base. It's huge.
Agreed.
No, absolutely. Does anybody
I
else have any? Oh yeah, go ahead,
sorry.
Jessica.
No, of
No,
course I
you
have a
go ahead.
question. Sorry.
Of course,
um,
yeah.
I'm just curious if there's a dentist listening right now or an office manager listening right now, um, what's one thing that they should do this week or one
Hmm.
change that they should make this week? Maybe multiple changes, but maybe one key one.
You know, I would say to create a system around something. And I would probably even argue not to pick the thing that's been nagging the most at them because it's probably the hardest thing to create a system around, which is why they haven't done it. Pick maybe the easiest thing that they could systematize, something that might take them 30 minutes to create an SOP or a system around and educate their team on, and then pick the next easiest thing and then, start gaining some momentum that way.
I think that's
Awesome.
great advice. To start with the easiest thing first so that you get it done,
Yep.
and you can build some momentum. I think too often we try and find the biggest challenge because we feel like that's what we need to tackle for success, but
Yeah.
it's getting those reps in, and if you can check off the checkbox of, yep, that's done, and then work your way up to the hardest thing,
I
yeah, you'll
think
feel more confident to tackle it.
Definitely. Like
to
you
Kyle's
said, get
point
the
there,
reps in.
yeah, to Kyle's point too, sometimes when you do the reps on the easier one, it actually just makes it easier to figure out that harder one too, because you're trying to overthink this grand SOP on how you do something. And like if you just do it, it's like, oh, actually, I can make this a lot simpler than what I was originally thinking. It just pares it down, and now it becomes an easier task.
Great
Yeah.
point, Charlie.
Yeah. Should I hit her with the hard hitting question now?
I think you
I
should.
think it's about time.
Oh no.
Okay, Stephanie, what is one piece of advice you hear often that you disagree with?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a piece of advice, but maybe something that's just like not well understood. And I recently talked about this on one of our live sessions, and that is that people have this misconception that if they keep doing the things and they do the reps, that it's going to get easier. That like one day they're just going to walk into work and it's going to be easy. But I would actually strongly disagree with that, because even if it takes less mental bandwidth, you still have to put in the effort. You still have to be consistent with the things that you're doing. You still have to build the SOPs. You still have to hold people accountable, have the hard conversations like we talked about, Jessica. Like you still have to do those. You might get better at it, but I don't think that there's ever going to be this moment in time where you walk into practice and you're like, oh, this is so easy now. I think people believe that. And I just don't agree with it. And I think that like I actually came to this realization recently. I'm training for a half marathon where it's like, yeah, running the 15K is still not easy, and I haven't even run 21 yet.
Yeah. I do a lot of mountain biking, and my buddies and I, we have a saying, you get to the top of the climb and you're totally gassed, and it's like, it's, it never gets easier. You just get a little bit faster to doing it.
Yes, you become more efficient, you become
Yeah.
faster. It might take a little less mental bandwidth, but you still have to put in the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's some great advice. I like that.
I do like
Yeah,
that. I
absolutely.
think that's very like business owner advice. Like it's funny because too, like sometimes I have to like tell my wife, she's like, "Are you busy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm busy. I literally have 1,000 hours worth of work I could do tomorrow if I wanted to."
Yeah.
But it's just that like you have to frame the mindset that yes, it's all going to get done in time, and yeah, it's probably not going to get easier next month or in 6 months from now because there'll be a new problem, more clients, and like
Yes.
it's like it'll be easier than it was 6 months, but it's going to be a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean, anything else that you want to tell the listeners? Anything else you want to highlight about the Dental Director Academy, or anything that we haven't touched on?
No, this was so amazing. I love where the conversation went today. I think you guys are excellent hosts and ask excellent questions. I aspire to be amazing interviewers like you guys one day.
We're trying
it's a
our
work in
hardest.
progress.
We're learning.
Yeah.
We're learning. But,
No, this has been so much fun.
thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, if you're okay with it, we'll put your contact information in the show notes so people can reach out to you, and office managers and practice owners can utilize your services. It's what you offer is super cool. So yeah, thanks so much for hanging out with us. And anything else, guys? Anything else you want to add?
Thank you very much for coming on the show, Stephanie. It was great to meet you, and I might have to follow up and see if you need a marketing expert for the Dental Director Academy
Yes,
to come on.
please, Kyle. Okay, yes, please send me an email. We're getting on this like tomorrow.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, Stephanie, and it was good to see you again. So it's been great chatting with you and getting your perspective on things. So I always appreciate that.
Yeah, same here. It was so much fun. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Well, we'll chat soon, and we'll see everyone next time.
All right.
You've been listening to the Dental C-Suite. For show notes or to ask a question to the board, visit www.thedentalcsuite.com.